Thomas here with Much Props, going to give you another how-to video. Today I am making something from The Nightmare Before Christmas, or at least inspired by it. Yes, it is the holiday season shortly upon us, so the next couple of builds will definitely be Christmas related or holiday related, and I thought I would kick it off with a Nightmare Before Christmas related one. Recently I got a question asked, what do you do with scrap foam? Or scrap materials in general? And the answer is usually I put it in a big giant barrel that is made of foam and wait for builds like this to do something with. So I'm gonna pull from my scrap bin and hopefully make something that can decorate my Christmas tree this year in epic fashion. So today we are going to make Nightmare Before Christmas ornaments out of foam. Let's get to building. So for this build, I'm trying to show as many different ways as possible that I can fit within a 15-minute or so bunch of clips. Understand that you can try to make my projects out of other materials, to use methods you're more comfortable with, or use different tools that you have available to you. There are dozens of ways to approach each build. This is just a documentation of how I did mine. For making the shapes of a basic thing like an ornament, you could print out a pattern and trace it onto your material, or you could trace an object that you have laying around your kitchen and you don't tell your wife about, or you purchase a drafting stencil that has various sizes and shapes on it, or even buy a cutting tool that cuts out perfect circles for you with a crank of a hand. All are viable and get you pretty close to the same results as other methods do. Another option could be to let a CNC or laser cutter do the cutting for you. I've had several people in the comments to my videos leave some pretty nasty comments and make it sound like it's cheating or I'm simply clicking a button and it magically makes itself. While yes, it does make precision cuts and engravings much easier than by hand, you still have to find the images, convert them to SVGs or files on your device, or draw objects from scratch because a lot of times you can't find the exact thing you want, and then you have to do several test runs to hone in the settings on each material because they differ depending on density. Luckily, this design is pretty simple and it only took me a couple of minutes to get it cut out. I also went ahead and did some engraving on them after this, which took about another hour or two on top of that. When working with EVA foam, you definitely want to heat seal your foam before you paint it. This closes up the cells on the surface of the material and reduces the amount of paint or primer that soaks up into your prop, usually causing you to have to put down more coats to get a finer surface. I have a small butane torch that I got from the home improvement store for I think under $20, which works great. I also have a mini lightsaber torch that I bought from a fellow YouTuber here on the platform, and and it's probably a bit overkill, but goes even faster and looks super cool while you do it. And I also have a heat gun that disperses a more even heat across a wider area. All of these tools are good for sealing up foam. Some of them have more controllability than others, and depending on the density of your foam, you may need to hit parts for a different length of time to properly seal it up. You'll see a sheen change as you cover the surface properly, and you don't want to catch it on fire like I did with the lightsaber one. There are tons of options when it comes to sealing your foam as well. I prefer using Plastidip because it's easier to use for me, and because I live in a climate where it's warm and easily accessible for a majority of the year, I typically go to it for the quickest consistent results. It can be expensive and it may not be available for purchase in all areas, which is totally understandable. You may be able to find other products that are similar. Mod Podge is another option, which has several varieties to pick from, as well as a watered down sprayable version, so you don't have to worry about brush strokes. It's much cheaper and doesn't put off nasty fumes. Spray paint and primers can be directly applied to foam, but may require more coats, may be prone to drips, and also puts off nasty odors. Gesso is typically used to seal canvases with, but I have used it on occasion to seal foam and paint on top of with some success. Acrylic paint is similar to that of Mod Podge. It has that sealant with a little bit of flexibility in it, so if your parts are going to move, you don't have to worry about your paint jobs cracking all to pieces once you start getting about. I made a total of 12 ornaments, and I'm going to finish 2 of them with each type of sealant that I have previously stated. For the spray paint and the Plastidip, I put 2 coats of them each on outside so that it wouldn't stink up my build room or spray particulates everywhere. I applied the Mod Podge gesso and the acrylic with a paintbrush, also giving each of them 2 layers of coverage. Another major reason I often choose Plastidip over these 3 methods I am currently applying: spraying doesn't leave brush strokes. True, you may get drips, but after enough practice, you typically get comfortable and those drips are limited. Since I was already doing multiple methods for how to cut out the foam, how to heat seal it, and how to prime it, I figured why not try and finish them in different ways also. For the laser engraving ones, I wanted to do something relatively simple because if I'm gonna use this as a viable way, I'd probably batch stuff out and this would make things go by super fast. So I've seen print press videos online where a person will combine two colors down on a plate and then blend those colors together in the middle to get a pull off of. I have a roller that came with something I bought several years ago that I haven't really used, and I figured I could test it out. Once blended, the roller then gets pushed against the foam, hitting just the high points and leaving the recesses black. Because it is raw foam with no primer, it does soak in the paint quite a bit and it almost leaves like a matte finish to the surface. An easy alternative if you're not as comfortable doing hand painting is decoupage. On the Mod Podge ornaments, I'm just going to lay down some printed out images and then put more Mod Podge over the top of it to seal it. Normally I would print on cardstock when I decoupage something because you want a thicker paper, but I only had pink left over from the variety pack that I purchased, so instead I printed some images I found on a Google search that I liked onto some sticky paper and cut them out just within the ornament itself. Once my stickers were down, I Mod Podged over the top of the paper to seal it in and protect the paper from bleeding and all those other things. If you're in a time crunch, you feel outside of your comfort zone with your paint skills, or if you just want to spruce up some random thing with little effort, decoupage is definitely a way to go. I'm trying to think of an interesting way that I could finish off a set of ornaments here, and I saw my box of different tape sitting off on its shelf and kind of had that light bulb moment. Once again, because there's a layer for the adhesive to grip to, I figured that I might give it a try. I'm going to use some metal duct tape for one and gold heat shielding tape for the other one. I believe I used on the olive branch crown during this year's Olympics. I cover the circles with as little wrinkles as possible and then carve the facial features out of black duct tape. You could print out a pattern if you needed to, draw it on the piece you are cutting on, or just freehand it like I did. The gessoed ornament has a nice matte surface that you could use a number of materials with. Obviously, acrylics, oil inks, charcoals, and a number of other mediums would work well on it, but I decided to just use plain old permanent marker Sharpies on it. With the shape already being round, barrel was the first thing from The Nightmare Before Christmas that popped into my mind that would fit nicely on this tree decor. I freehanded it as well without drawing any outlines in pencil. It makes for something that is not quite what is in the show and kind of allows for my own interpretation and stylized version of it. If you want to, you could seal them with a spray-on varnish or some type of fixant or Mod Podge. Pretty much for the rest of them, I am using acrylic paint pens. They're real easy to use, they fit well in the hand with gripping, and you don't have to worry about that paintbrush running out, you just dab it on the table. I found some images that I thought would work well with the shapes and did my best to represent them in my own style, which is heavily influenced by some of my favorite art movements like Impressionism, Modern Art, and Pointillism. I stayed up all night to get them all painted and the video edited for release today, as the early morning hours of Friday was upon me, and realizing that I still had 8 hours of teaching to do without sleep made me realize that my 40-plus-year-old body does not handle all-nighters as well as it used to. Hopefully you enjoyed the end result, and you can follow me on most of the social media platforms, link in the description, for more photos of my builds and any exciting news that may happen throughout the week. And we are finished. Here is the end result. Overall, I think they turned out pretty cool. They are definitely a bit more intense than others to make. I thought it would be nice to show a bunch of different ways, because a lot of times when people see my videos, they think, oh, well, that's the way I have to do it. And the answer is obviously no, that's not the only way that this thing is possible. It's just the way that I approach it. So I wanted to share with you a bunch of different methods, not only including how to use the materials, but how to shape it, how to cut it out, how to paint it, how to seal it, all those things. So hopefully it kind of helps you to see that there's a lot more than one way to skin a cat. Yeah. Maybe you'll get some.
Yay!
And inevitably, they're going to ask you, how'd you make that? You can give them one of these. Tell them, much props. Now I just need to hang these on the tree. Peace out. If you enjoy what I do here on YouTube and you want to see more builds like this one, please consider joining these awesome people listed here with me over my Patreon to build a bigger, better, more creative community together.